Well, it's time to take a look at what's grabbing the headlines right here in France. Florence Villeminot joins me. Good morning to you, Flo. Now, the papers today are looking at the end of life care and legislation due to be discussed today.
Absolutely. It's a very touchy subject here in France. Two MPs, Alain Clayes and Jean Leonetti, have written a report on the end-of-life care debate here in France, and they're going to deliver it to the French president, François Hollande, today. And they've also drafted a bill to amend current legislation. So this is the front page of La Croix, the Christian paper. It's wondering what is going to change if this bill indeed becomes a law. La Croix wonders, could the French way be in danger? Currently, euthanasia is illegal here in France, but there's also a rule against intensive, relentless medication. It's called acharnement thérapeutique here in France. And La Croix, Christian paper very much against euthanasia, is worried that this current balance could be shaken up by this new law. Why is that? Well, because according to the new law, doctors will be obliged to follow patients' wishes, their final wishes. And on top of that, there will be strict guidelines about using sedation in a terminal phase.
Well, as you touched on there, Flo, the bill is being criticised on several fronts.
That's right. It's being criticized on the one hand by people who are really hoping that the government would legalize euthanasia. And it's also being criticized by those against euthanasia. They say that this law essentially opens the door to disguised euthanasia. You can see that Le Parisien here is talking about it with this cartoon. You can see the Grim Reaper saying, "It's crazy, they're trying to reform my profession." Now, Aujourd'hui en France interviews a man named Philippe Pozzo-di-Borgo today. You can see that's on their front page today. He's quite famous here. He's a businessman who became a tetraplegic after a hang gliding accident, and his story inspired a blockbuster hit movie here called Untouchable. So inside Aujourd'hui en France, they interview him. He argues against euthanasia. He says we must help people live and not die. You can see him here. And we must give people relief without killing them. Now, Le Parisien says it's important to listen to people like Philippe Pozzo-di-Borgo and other people who are in favor of euthanasia, because politicians are debating euthanasia, but because of this, it's easy to forget the very humanity that is actually going on behind this, the stories like those of Philippe Pozzo-di-Borgo.
Such a complex issue. Well, let's move on to French politics. The Figaro is focusing on the former president, Nicolas Sarkozy.
That's right. Nicolas Sarkozy, recently re-elected president of the UMP party. Now, he has vowed to reunite the very divided party. And so Le Figaro takes a look at just how he's trying to revive the party and give it a new direction. But he really has his work cut out for him. According to Le Figaro, it's a very tricky balancing act for the former president. And inside, Le Figaro explains just why, and they have an interesting graphic here you can see. They talk about the very complex UMP galaxy. Sarkozy basically has to reconcile very different sensibilities within the party, people pulling more to the right, people pulling more to the center. He has to do all this while scratching the back of his allies and keeping his rivals at bay. So this article says Sarkozy is trying to change the party, but has Sarkozy changed himself? It's a real question that a lot of people wonder here in France. And Le Figaro actually quotes a heavy weight within the UMP, who remains anonymous, who says that Sarkozy hasn't changed, and because he hasn't changed, he has to change everything around him, essentially put a new coat of paint on an old blemish.
Well, we'll keep our eye certainly on the return of Sarkozy, but several papers are also focusing on drink driving.
Absolutely. La Croix says that too many French people don't choose between drinking and driving. Now, today, a road safety association has sounded the alarm by publishing a new report, and the results are pretty concerning. 30% of French people admit that they have often taken the wheel well over the legal limit of drinking. But the art of this report also points out that the problem is most French people, well, half French people, not most, half of French people don't actually know what the legal limit is.
Yeah.
And so Le Parisien reminds readers the legal limit is 0.5 grams per liter of blood. That amounts to 2 glasses, 2 small glasses, it must be said. Now, this Road Safety Association is really hoping to raise awareness, especially because the end of year is coming up, and there are, of course, a lot of celebrations around Christmas and New Year, etc. And so this article calls on readers to start thinking about it now. How are you going to get home from your New Year's party? It says readers should really start thinking about it. Perhaps choose a friend to be a designated driver, or just maybe spend the night wherever you're going to be having your party.
Well, absolutely, Flo. It's a very good plan to be making, and now's the time to do it. Okay, thanks for bringing us up to date with all the French papers.